And we are live streaming here from the Scarce City headquarters. I am your host, Chris Tremount, Chief Executive Pleb here at Scarce City. We got a very special program for you today, folks. We are kicking off the auction for the Genesis block by none other than Brekkie von Bitcoin. We will be joined by Brekkie here shortly to take us deep into this creation of his and to tell us a little bit about his Bitcoin story. Before we do that, I'm going to walk us through how Lightning auctions work, just in case anybody's new here. And we are accepting bids, and we do have a first bid on the scoreboard by KD3. So the way this works, check out the auction. If you want to place a bid, come down here and put how much you want to bid. Sats are the standard, but we do the Sats math for you. Input an email address. It can be any email address as long as you have access to it. This is how we verify the winner and issue any refunds. If it's your first time making a bid with us, you will have to input a display name. This is what people see. They place a bid as this display name. Your email stays private. Once you're good with that, oh, doesn't like my fake email address. Throw in a .com there. If you're good with that, you will be directed to BTC Pay server to place a bid deposit. This is a small percentage of your bid. This is what we hold on to during the auction. Once the auction's over, the highest bidder has 24 hours to pay their highest bid. As long as they do, everybody gets their sats back at the end. If the highest bidder does not, they lose their sats, and the next highest bidder has their chance to pay their high bid. This bid deposit, it can be paid on Lightning for minimal fees and instantly. It can also be paid on chain. However, keep in mind, if you pay on chain, we do need a confirmation for that bid within standard auction countdown. And we disable on-chain bids within the final 15 minutes of the standard auction countdown, and you will get wrecked on fees, of course. So that's all we need to cover right now. We have another bid on the board by Physique. Of course, Physique comes to play. We're looking at 200,000 sats right now, and we're just getting started. So without further ado, I will invite the guest of the hour, Brekkie von Bitcoin. Brekkie, how you doing? Brekkie, I think you're on mute.
There we go. Thanks for having me, man. Well, I was a little nervous. It's the first time I put any artwork up for auction before, and I was nervous I wouldn't get any bids. And here we are. We got multiple bids, so we're good.
Yeah, smooth sailing already. We got epoxy on the scoreboard for 250,000 sats.
He's got a soft spot for resin, so we'll see. We'll see. Maybe he'll end up with this piece.
There you go. You found his weak spot. All right, man. So how you feeling?
I'm good. This is so exciting. I've been bidding on pieces. I've been bidding and losing, but now's the first time I get to put one up. So this is great.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's an honor to have you take part of this. This is a beautiful piece you've created for us. We're looking forward to you telling us all about it. But before we do that, I think anybody in the Bitcoin space, they know who you are, but they probably don't know your origin story. Can you talk us through that?
Sure. So, where do we start? I bought my first 2 Bitcoins back in 2013, right before we crashed. I became a hodler. I didn't know what a blockchain was. I didn't know anything about that. I just knew that Bitcoin was like that gold in World of Warcraft, but real, And I actually was, I went to go study abroad in Russia after that. And part of me wanting Bitcoin was like, well, the banking system in Russia is a little and I need some money that no one can take away from me. And so Bitcoin worked. And then I really kind of fell down the rabbit hole again back in 2017, like a lot of people. And I was working in the film industry at the time, and I wasn't really liking it. And this sorry for using this bad word, but this crypto thing is so exciting. And so I went really, really deep, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was a major shitcoiner. And then I saw the light. I started listening to podcasts like Tales from the Crypt, and, some friends really kind of steered me in the right direction. And I really went deep down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And so I started working for another company in the space, and then I ended up at Swan Bitcoin. But kind of during this whole time, there was a period where I was between work. I was leaving my work in the film industry and trying to find something sustainable to do in Bitcoin. And I was like, why don't I start making artwork again? Because I've always been passionate about being creative and making things. It doesn't matter kind of what medium. I just love to create. And I just started experimenting with resin and concrete and all sorts of weird materials. And, Bitcoin to me was the first time, how do I put this? I needed inspiration, right? Like, I wasn't out there making artwork because nothing was inspiring me. And then Bitcoin comes along and I'm like, okay, this is something that gives me some, a creative push. And so the idea with artwork for me was, I really, really enjoy it. Like, it's really relaxing to make artwork and be creative and just kind of come up with things. But, the other side of things is that I wanted to create pieces of art that would start conversations and get people thinking about Bitcoin, and really try to push the conversation. And I don't think I've reached my artistic zenith, not even close yet. I'm looking up to people like Crypto Graffiti who are doing these massive, like, public exhibitions of Bitcoin art. And to me, that's what Bitcoin art's really all about. So one day, hopefully, we'll take what I've learned and bring it to even bigger things.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, man, when I look at you, it's like Bitcoin is a renaissance and you're a Bitcoin renaissance man. One day I see you impersonating Christine Lagarde. Another day you're, dubbing over South Park episodes, world-class shit posting going on. And today you're selling art, and you're always supporting the Bitcoin art scene, which is just amazing to see. Definitely.
It's a burgeoning art scene, and a lot of people don't realize like how far back it goes. There are so many people who, were making Bitcoin art in the really early days, and, there were, the first NFTs were on Bitcoin with Counterparty. And, it's really cool to see, where we started and where we're going and kind of where we are now, and more people making Bitcoin art. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, art's something that I feel like I never fully appreciated because, I feel like you have to be in the moment and understand the full context to really understand what the art's about. And, going to a museum, you can try to, study the history of the time, but there's nothing like living in the moment and understanding what that art represents in real time. And that's what, that's the beautiful thing that Bitcoin art gives us.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, man. So we have Zeke's back on top with 500,000 sats. Going strong here in the first few minutes.
I'll take it. Come on, folks. You can do better than that.
So how about you tell us about this thing? What'd you create here?
Sure. So this was probably the most difficult resin pour I've ever done. I started off with resin with a lot of, smaller pieces. And for those who don't know much about resin, there's it can be really tricky. It doesn't always come out. It depends on a lot of things like environmental factors, moisture in the air, ambient temperature, how much catalyst you use, all these things. And it can turn out wonky. And something I did early on was kind of embrace the randomness of it. I tried not to be so scientific and exact about it because I enjoy art being different every time. And what's funny is like there's this, the debate going on now with like NFTs, like, oh, can't people copy, copy, paste. And so when I was making physical art, I was like, well, I want to make things that cannot ever be reproduced. There's no way to replicate the exact situation in which something was made. So everything that I make is hopefully unique by itself. And so the idea was to kind of do an ode to Satoshi, hence the Guy Fawkes anonymous mask, which is, really come to represent Satoshi. And I wanted to do something bigger than I'd ever done before. So the resin block is itself, like just the part above the base, I think is about 8 inches tall, maybe 9 inches. And it's heavy. This whole piece is like, 24 pounds. So what's going on inside the piece, there's a motherboard from an old ASIC in there. I wanted to kind of capture a moment of Bitcoin's, past. There's, a physical Bitcoin over the eye. And the paint that's around it is kind of this sort of, I think it was tar. I think I used tar as the paint. So a lot of weird, smelly, horrible materials. And, I don't know, like I like to come up with meaning as I'm making things. So to me, it's like, it almost represents this like weird kind of sticky, odd history of Bitcoin. Like where did Bitcoin come from? It has this like dark past, and everyone always thinks it's for illicit purposes when obviously it's far, far more than that. So this is called Genesis Block, and it's an ode to Satoshi. And it to me, it was my attempt to represent the early days of Bitcoin and to kind of pay homage to he, she, they, Satoshi, wherever they are, right? Now, beyond the actual block itself, the base is made from concrete. And the reason why, well, I didn't think about shipping when I first started using concrete. I just thought about how cool it was to use it.
Right.
So it's heavy, which is, I think, a good thing in terms of it being hard to steal, because it has the open diamond there as well. So if somebody were to try to leave your house, it might take them a few minutes to get it out of there. But concrete is a really cool material in that it gets stronger with time. Like if you look at, this isn't Roman concrete, which gets even stronger and stronger with time. But as concrete sets, it gets harder and harder and harder. And to me, that's like a perfect physical metaphor for Bitcoin, right? We add a block, gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So to me, like that was why I was like, I have to use concrete for this. And as I mentioned kind of in the description for this piece, there are flaws in this piece, and I embrace those flaws. And, the concrete, I thought I'd be able to get like a perfect finish, and, it wasn't, I didn't quite do the ratio correct. So part of it crumbled before it set. And then I chose to really kind of lean into that and highlight these flaws. And to me, part of the reason for that is because, Bitcoin may have had this immaculate conception, let's say, right? Satoshi's gone, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't perfect when it first came out. A lot of people, coders, like look at Satoshi's code and they're just like, Satoshi was not a good coder, not a clean coder, right. But that's not the point. The point is that you bring everything together and it makes something beautiful. And hopefully that's, what I did with this piece. So I wanted to highlight the flaws in order to, be able to move past them. To me, like if you're constantly trying to like be perfect, you're never going to actually achieve perfection. Perfection is something beyond, being perfect. I don't know. That sounds stupid, but
no, man, I hear you 100%. And look, I mean, the authenticity of this thing really comes through, and I feel like adds to how special it is. And I love the metaphor you gave. Like, the code was not perfect from the beginning, but it's gotten stronger through time. Like the concrete you used to build this thing. And, at this point, there's no block that's stronger than the Genesis block.
There you go. So
awesome.
What else? A few other things about it. It has an open dime embedded in it. There's no Bitcoin on it, but you can send Bitcoin to it, use it as a cold storage device of sorts. And then, I said that there are flaws aplenty, and there are these heat fractures in the resin. And the cool part about them, another elaborate metaphor basically, but if you saw the video with the lighting, you can like, the way this piece is meant to be displayed, I think it looks great by itself, but if it's put on a pedestal with really cool backlighting, the lighting permeates the resin, and it just like, it does all sorts of cool things with the fractures. So I don't know, I kind of think of that almost like, shining a light on Bitcoin in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, since you got into Bitcoin in 2013, was the Guy Fawkes reference around then? Do you know how that came about?
So that, I can't say, I'm sure it was around back then. I believe it came out from, from just like hacker culture, I think it's been around. Well, it's definitely been around since before 2013, because it's from the time of Guy Fawkes in the 1600s, right? It was people literally protesting or doing things that the government wasn't happy with, so they would wear these anonymous masks, to preserve their anonymity. But in truth, I wasn't a Bitcoiner in 2013. You know, I had gotten some Bitcoin and I knew a little bit about it, but you know, I didn't have my epiphany until years later.
Yep, I hear you. I'm just asking because I got in relatively late 2017, and by that point it was everywhere. Oh, we gotta shine a light on that. We're up to over 1 million sats by KD3. KD3 is serious. He came to play, so watch out, Vizik and Epoxy. You got some competition.
You know, I have to say also, I'm very disappointed in the emoji selection because I really want there to be a gavel emoji, and there just isn't one. We got to work on that.
Is there a gavel emoji? Is that a thing?
There's a hammer, but there isn't. There's no like gavel. They look the same.
Yeah, we're gonna have to create our own emojis here and make it happen. Awesome, man. Well, look, you told us how you created this thing. You told us about the materials. You told us about, you know, the size and weight of this thing. I saw you mention on Twitter that you had some ideas about creating a series with this theme. I don't want to put you on blast, but do you have anything to share on that?
I'm still in the ideation phase on that, but I was thinking about how I could, you know, kind of take my art to the next level and combine everything that I've been working on recently. During the pandemic, I kind of took a hiatus from physical art because I walked into my studio one day and I had just come from the grocery store and I was wearing a mask and I was like, I don't want to put on a paint mask now. Like, this is annoying me. So I dove into digital artwork and taught myself 3D sculpting and, you know, and combine that with 3D printing. Where I'm going with this is I want to take everything that I've learned and bring it back to the physical artwork. So I was thinking how I could do this, and this is my favorite piece that I've ever made. So how can I build on this? And then I realized, you know, if this is a snapshot of the Genesis block, well, we've got what, a block clock? No, we're not on 600. We're on like 600 something thousand blocks, right? So wouldn't it be cool to kind of create these moments from Bitcoin's history? You know, pick a block in time and look at what was happening that day and try to encapsulate some of Bitcoin's history in more like resin blocks like this. And there's this artist, let me find his name.
While you're looking it up, I got to call out Vizik for the 1.5 million sat bid.
Oh, Vizik. Let's go. Wait, is this it? Sorry. Give me 1 second. Anyway, I can't find his name. I'm confusing him with another resin artist, but he does these incredible pieces that are layered. And he layers all these embedded objects to form this almost mosaic. And I've tried doing this before, and it wasn't my best piece, and it's something I wanted to work on. So the idea is to, you know, find these moments in time that are special to Bitcoin and to Bitcoiners, to commemorate them, and to make each block different, because each block is different, right? And so hopefully I'll be combining my 3D printing skills and, you know, sculpting, you know, custom objects to embed inside and 3D printing them and painting them and all that kind of thing. And then working them in layers into these blocks to create almost like a tableau and a scene, an image kind of thing. Like, this is relatively simple. I think that like the stark kind of simplicity of it is what makes it beautiful. But I want to do something more complex. So yeah, we'll see. I've got a notebook a mile long of ideas to work on, but this one is calling to me right now. So yeah.
For sure, man. There's so much you could do with that, whether it's all the bailouts or, you know, Silk Road or even like the halving blocks, right?
Well, it's funny you say Silk Road, because that's one. Every time I do resin, I never measure, so I always end up with extra resin. And I have to like come up with like a small project on the spot and figure out some way to use this resin so it doesn't go to waste. And one day I was actually growing weed in my backyard, and I had these pot leaves left over, these fan leaves, and I was like, this would look cool embedded in resin. So I made this sort of like, basically the starter piece was basically pot leaves encased in resin, and that gave me another idea to kind of do this homage to what Bitcoin really is. Like, Bitcoin can help us, you know, prevent these stupid wars, like the war on drugs, right? Like, the governments can't spend all this stupid money if they lose the power of the printing press. So I made this other kind of resin piece, the one I mentioned earlier, And this new one that, the first one I would probably start on for this series would be like the era of the Silk Road, because I just think like you see all these things embedded inside, like pills, orange pills, obviously floating around, and, syringes and needles and things like that. But if you do it in a certain way, it won't just look like a piece about drugs. It can be a piece about freedom. Because Silk Road was, while it existed, from what I've been told, like a really special place where people actually shared good information and could access, drugs safely. If you're going to do drugs, access them safely. So, we'll see. I think Silk Road would be a really interesting way to kind of kick off the next block. Maybe, raise money for Ross, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. What a great cause that could go to. Well, whatever you do with it, there will only be one Genesis block, and that's what we're offering today.
That's true. It's true. All right, what are we at? 1.5 million sats. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, I got one more question for you, Brekkie, and then we'll let you go. You decided to donate any of the unredeemed auction collateral to Satoshi in Venezuela. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that organization and why you chose them?
Sure. So when I first got into the space, I was lucky enough to link up with a bunch of other content creators, and we all kind of met on Instagram. We were some of the only people who were on there and talking about Bitcoin at the time. And one of those people was a guy who goes by the name of Javier Bastardo. He's at Crypto Bastardo on Twitter, and he's like an amazing toxic Bitcoiner, lives down in Venezuela, in Caracas. And I think he hit me up and a few others, and he had this idea, and we all kind of were like, dude, you got to start a meetup group. You got to do something. And he ended up founding this group, Satoshi in Venezuela, as a resource for Venezuelans to learn about Bitcoin. And he's waving the flag, and he's just an awesome guy, and I love to support what they're up to down there. So yeah, one of my favorite organizations.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, just checking out their website has tested my Spanish skills, but it looks like they have a lot going. 5 different facilitators, 10 different meetups, over 250 participants.
It's wild. And this all grew. It grew from like nothing to this in like a year. It was amazing to see how quickly it happened.
Yeah, and you'd love to see. I mean, there's nowhere in the world that can benefit from Bitcoin as much as Venezuela. So anything that can help people get a hold of Bitcoin and preserve their wealth and transfer their wealth, it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly, man.
Awesome, man. Well, let's check out where we are here, still holding strong at 1.5 million sats, but we got a long way to go. 23 hours and 30 minutes. Do you want to give us a preview of what we have planned for tomorrow towards the end of the auction?
Yes. Well, we got to do some organizing, but I'm thinking we're going to do a live stream with you, myself, a bunch of other artists who have put some pieces up for auction on Scarcity, and some who will be putting pieces up for auction. And I would just love if we could have a sort of a roundtable discussion about Bitcoin art, like what it means to us, where it's going. We can talk about Scarcity and just kind of keep the cultural conversation going. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, Bitcoin and artwork together. So maybe we'll stream to Clubhouse as well. And yeah, it should be a fun time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are scheduled to end the auction tomorrow, 22:30 UTC, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. So we'll try to kick off the live stream about 30 minutes before then. So hopefully we can get a good group of artists to talk Bitcoin art and attract a good crowd to listen.
We've got Vizik in the chat saying, "Where do I sign up?" Vizik, you're welcome. You're going to join us. Don't worry.
Awesome, man. All right, Brekkie. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again so much for putting on this auction for us. We're really excited for the next 23 and a half hours.
Thank you guys. You guys are putting on the auction. What are you talking about? You did all the hard work.
We couldn't do this without you, man.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, take care. All right, before we end this thing, I will go through how Lightning auctions work one more time, just in case somebody joined the party late here. If you want to join the bidding, throw in your bid here, throw in an email address. I keep doxing my wife with the auto-populate email address. We got nothing to hide. All right. Put in your display name. This is what shows up in the bid table. Once you're ready to place your bid, hit confirm. You will be directed to BTC Pay server to pay a temporary deposit on Lightning or on chain. Be aware, if you're paying on chain, you will get wrecked on fees. We need a confirmation for that on-chain payment within standard auction time. And on-chain payments are disabled within the final 15 minutes. So if you haven't already, now is your chance to get set up on Lightning. We have some recommendations for you at the bottom of the page here. We like Breeze Wallet, Blue Wallet, LN Strike. They all have their pros and cons, but they all work great. You can get set up in minutes, throw some sats in your Lightning wallet, and start participating in this bid. All right. Well, we will be keeping you up to date with the action the next day or so. Thank you for joining, everybody, and we will talk to you soon.